Good morning and welcome to day 4 of Fintech Week Tel Aviv, which actually feels like month 4. This is indeed our last day, and we've saved the best for last. In December, I sat at a conference in Dubai and saw on stage in front of me Israeli government officials on stage with UAE government officials, and for me it was an incredible moment and one that will live with me for many years. Of course, this is the aftermath of the Abraham Accords, and it gives me great pleasure to focus this day on that relationship, Israel and UAE and Bahrain, and how that will play out. And it gives me great pleasure and it's a great honor for us to have Adiv Baruch, the chairman of the Israel Export Institute, to open today's session. And thank you very much, Adiv, for joining us. And I'd like to hand over the stage to you and for you to share your insights and knowledge. And thank you very much. Handing over to you. I'm going to disappear backstage. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, Johnny, you can never disappear. You're always with us. And first and foremost, I do want to thank you for all the initiatives that you're taking in order to promote the fintech sector of the Israeli market. And of course, I want to thank all the crowd that have waken up early from the UK side, the Israeli side, and of course, our guest from the UAE and Bahrain. So first of all, it's an honor to be here this morning. As Johnny mentioned, and as we're looking for our future, especially when COVID-19 has caught the world completely unprepared at the beginning of 2020, changed many paradigms. All of a sudden the lockdowns, market were shutting down, we're expecting to see a shrinkage in our global bilateral trade with all the countries around the world. As you know, Israel, being a leading innovation hub to the world, we rely on export. Our local market is way too small, and we're a bit concerned. We're a bit concerned that we'll be hit economically in a sense, let aside the healthcare issues. But fortunately enough, we've been able to manage the situation in such a way that even in 2020, we have reached the level of exports to the numbers we had in 2009, exported over $1 billion of services and products. And as you all might be aware, had to move much faster to that level of services. At the same time, the digital crime, we call the cyber attacks on the financial market, increased exponentially as well. So we had to tap into it. But I'm sure that I would rather speak with the limited time that we have on the opportunity post the Abraham Accord signatures. I've been involved in that region, in the UAE and Bahrain in the last 2.5 years for preparation and of course helping our government to work on Expo 2020. And I found out an amazing partners, young generation that thinks strategically, just like we do. We have more commonalities than differences. And all of a sudden, we both realize that for our generation, truly for our generation, now is to drive what we call economy of peace and support and sustainable for long-term vision is the economic and the economic private signed to upper bridges for coming to the selling some of our services or products, or they might come over and do some investment. I really carved the future statement as I believe it should be. It's about co-creation. I truly believe that as two or three or four, if you look at the UAE and Bahrain, we're small countries. In size, we're small. The UAE is pretty much similar in size to Israel, although you have the Emiratis on one hand and the expats. You look at Bahrain, the Bahrainians together with the expats. You're talking about 10 million people, roughly, and 2 million people in Bahrain. But that means that in order for us to be able to compete in the global, aggressive, and intensive competition, we have to co-create together. The only truly cooperation that we can do to increase our capabilities for collaboration in our region is by doing it together. Potential markets and the fintech as that we have many ground bases in order to take it forward. If you look at Bahrain, looking at their post-petroleum strategy, realizing that they want to create a financial center in the region, very powerful financial centers. We found over 80 banks, multinational banks that operate in the region, very open and to collaborate in order to expand additional services and advanced services to the region. And if you look at the radius, about 4 to 5 hours flight from the EU of Bahrain, we can reach roughly 3.5 to 4 billion of the population out of the total 8 billion of the global population in the world, that we can work together and service them together. And of course, to enter some countries that Israel had some limitation to operate due to the political constraint. Due to the political constraints in the region. So if you look at the potential is much greater than just looking at any type of sell or buy or invest in one region to the other region. It's truly about our mutual cooperation. Another level, I'd like to take it and perhaps to share it with the audience, and then we can open it for some Q&A. We also have to look at the youngsters. The youngster that we have to educate them today to think globally, to operate globally, and to realize that we live in a world without borders. We live in a flat world. So setting up all the historical constraints. And by the way, with the UAE and Bahrain, we never had any conflicts. And like I said, if you look historically, even in Bahrain, if you look at the 1930, 36, there was a strong Jewish community in Bahrain that was always respected and involved in the market. And of course, now the Jewish community that is growing up in the UAE, we're truly coming from the same background. So how can we take the future generation to make sure that we're all aligned, to make sure that whatever we do together, we will create the skill set opportunities for those youngsters, so they will be proud to continue developing each country to work together in order to fulfill our mission. And like I said at the beginning, it's upon our shoulder, our leadership, and our economic mission to make sure that now, once the direct contact and relationship have really opened up, we have to take it to the next level. We have to widen the bridges and to make sure that we're involved together on the education side, on the contribution to the global challenges. There are many of them. If you look just in the financial sector, how to distribute the services to the undeprived people around the world to get better financial services, better financial knowledge, better financial expertise, and to be able to manage the assets in a very effective and efficient way. So by saying all that, Johnny, I think you're doing an amazing work creating a platform again in the sector of fintech for collaboration, for sharing the ideas, to take it to the next level, and of course,